And this is The In Show. I'm your host, Gus Summers. Good to be back with you today. That's right. We are broadcasting live from the Sunset Strip in the entertainment capital of the world, Hollywood, from our In Show studios. And we have a great in-studio guest, Miss Summer Watson.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me, Gus.
Oh, my pleasure. So much to talk about. I know you have you got a CD that you want to talk about, but first to start off with, you. Tell me about you, how you got into, your particular line of work here, because you're an operatic singer.
I'm a soprano, that's right, yeah. I think it's really important, as a child to be shown many different pools of entertainment, from acting and music and, sports and traveling and languages and everything. And my parents really gave me that opportunity. They actually didn't have that chance, and really hardworking, very wonderful people, and they thought, right, you're our only child, we'd love for you to have the chances in life that we didn't get. And so they exposed me to music and languages and traveling where I could, and so by the time it got to really university, I chose music, and just gradually, step by step, that ended up me being a singer.
Oh, amazing. So your parents were just wanting you to have more opportunity than they had?
Yeah, they both left school when they were 13 or 14 and took, hands-on type jobs, anything they could get their hands on, as it was, I guess, in like the 50s, in early 60s. And they worked extremely hard, and when it came the chance for them to think about my education and everything, they thought, well, we'd love you to be exposed to that. But it was a world they didn't know anything about. They don't speak languages, they didn't study music. The singing in particular, my dad always sang lullabies to me. He would come home from work, he worked in government, and when he would come home absolutely exhausted, he would sing me a few tunes he grew up with. The funny part of the story was, he was so tired most of the time, I would then know the songs and start singing them to him, and then obviously the next day I'd sort of say, I'd love to get involved in singing. And I happened to have an amazing singing teacher at school, Molly Townsend, who we tracked down just last year, and she's still alive and well. And that naturally led to music festivals and competitions, and I really had the support that it takes to nurture any kind of talent, whether it's music or sports or whatever. So my parents were at everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, your grandparents, did you have an opportunity to know them?
I did meet them, yeah.
Okay.
I think, though, that my voice might come from my mum's side, although my dad did sing some lullabies to me. One day, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, I went to see my Uncle Richard, and all of my mum's side of the family are very talented. He builds houses from scratch. We're talking beautiful sash windows and incredible decorating, not just, with a bit of paint. I mean, the most amazing paint job you've ever seen. And he started singing. But I'm not talking, classical, right? I mean, just all types of music, 60s and 50s, and like belting it out. And I just came out one day of the guest room. I guess I was there around Christmas time or something. I was, Uncle Rick, is that you singing? And it was extraordinary. And my mum didn't even really know. And I was like, that's it. I went to Ireland a few years ago thinking I could find my long lost, musical history, but that was it. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Good old Uncle Rick.
Uncle Richard, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And your mother, did she sing to you as well?
She didn't. No, she was very much hands-on in terms of the support being there for me when I performed at the little plays and things like The King and I, little musicals and things at school. Any festival when I grew up, she'd be there writing the little notes down. Oh, son, come on, you got the 81, that's awesome, or very good, I guess, in an English manner. And she would make sure I knew all my lines, and make sure I was on time for my swimming contests and those kind of things. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
But she's I'd say apart from my golden retriever, she's my biggest fan. She's probably even listening right now.
Well, fantastic. Well, we got to give a shout out to Mom. Hello,
Yeah.
Mom.
Hi, Mama.
Thank you for all the support and,
Yes,
and love.
absolutely, Mum. If you're listening, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. I love you very much.
Oh, that's sweet. It's always good to give your mom a little love every once in a
A
while.
little hug, a little love over the radio.
That's right. When you were growing up, what type of music did your parents listen to? Were they eclectic?
Yeah, music in the house. I always remember Mum would cook a wonderful Sunday roast, and that would usually be accompanied with the most amazing array of late 40s, 50s rock and roll music. And you'd see Mum occasionally break out putting the roast potatoes in, and then just break out into a little jig around the kitchen and a little sing song. And Dad the same, but it wasn't classical by any means. This was a whole new territory for them as well that they were learning. And I think that's where my love of being able to express to everybody today that classical music is no different than any other genre. It just occasionally happens to be in a different language, but it's all about breaking the barriers. I think anybody from Taylor Swift to Bublé to the rock and rollers, they're all about, do you get this? Are you feeling it? And that's, I think Mozart and Beethoven would turn in their grave if they knew that it was just stiff and not meant for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's really been my mission as I've kind of grown into my career, about really making it available to everyone. It doesn't matter the language, just close your eyes and just enjoy it.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, feel the universality of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. I had the opportunity to work with Sony. We recorded an album at the Royal Philharmonic with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in Abbey Road Studios, where of course the Beatles were.
Who? Never,
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Even I know those guys.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to really put who I was on a plate. And at the time I was listening to, world music, Moroccan music. That was very popular, the club kind of music in my, 20s. And then to be able to put out the great classics like Strauss and Mozart and some other more obscure writers, mixed in with some amazing film writers. So there I had Sting, who we all know, right next to Strauss. And I just, when you look at somebody's collection of whether it's DVDs or music, it's not this is classical and this is jazz and this is, it's just the letter S, and it's just a whole array of stuff. And I really don't think all the people I've met along my journey, they play anything. It just depends what mood you're in.
That's wonderfully said, because exactly right. I don't think I've really met anyone who has them in categories.
No.
They're music or film. They're just these stacks of them.
Yeah.
And it's like exactly
Yeah.
that.
It's like people's cars, it's made for people's, everyone's driving around from A to B. We're in Los Angeles, but everybody's very attuned to driving, for hours a day to get from A to B. And their array of music in their car, I mean, seriously, if you checked out the 5-6 CDs that you would see, I don't know, Paul Potts next to, some punk music next to the latest Christmas album, probably my Christmas single in there thrown in. I mean, who knows? But it always amazes me.
Because it's absolutely true. Because I think nowadays it's easier because you can download a song.
Yep.
Versus needing to go buy the entire album
Yeah.
or CD, and you only like. Truth be told, anyone always really just likes one or two. They say that, you know, the whole CD is great, but they'll, what's their favorite? Oh, 5 and 8 and out
Yeah.
of, you know, 12 songs.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to always encourage that because, again, it doesn't matter the genre. There will always just like one or two of them, but that one or two leads to some more, you know. So the particular genre that I really, you know, wanted to continue to excel in, the crossover genre, which really means taking the amazing classical pieces and just exposing them to the masses. So you make it sound a little more like, you know, film music, so it's more exposable and accessible to everybody. It really, the music really speaks to everybody, you know, and it really just, it's an essence that when you have somebody pressing play, that they really understand and feel something and enjoy it, and if they don't, skip to the next one, you know, until you find another one that you do, because there's so much amazing music out there. And once you buy that one, then you might then start researching somebody else, you know, maybe even in the 18th century. And there has been some criticism for, you know, crossover music not being sincere to its roots, but I actually think it really encourages people to dig a little deeper and go and see an opera or go to a concert or have the confidence to take their children to, you know, a live concert or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first live concert?
I remember, it's a great question. I remember being at the Royal College of Music, having never been to an opera. And I was surrounded by a lot of purists, you know, real amazing musicians who had that kind of upbringing where they were very used to going to classical concerts and so on. And I walked into the Royal Opera House, and I just remember the beautiful red velvet seats and being right up front. I think, obviously being a student, I was in a t-shirt and jeans, and you know, 10 pound seats, or I guess that's like, was that $5 or something, right up front, and just be almost on stage. It was extraordinary to really be a part of that, and that's obviously just grown. And then when you can get to meet the artists backstage, I had the chance to meet, you know, the great Renee Fleming, who's a wonderful soprano, and Bryn Terfel again, you know, another phenomenal baritone, and then pop artists like Sting and you know, all the greats. It's just amazing because you're all talking the same language, music.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because as you talk about, you know, being a purist, it seems like they're the ones that are most difficult to convince that other genre of music is equal. You know, it's only hip hop, or it's only rock, or it's only opera. And
Right.
What you had mentioned earlier about the crossover, you know, when someone starts hearing something that's similar to theirs, oh, I can see it sounds like this. Oh, I can see where you're going. The world seems to open.
Absolutely. I think it's all about, you know, opening those doors, continuing, and today's technology enables us to do that because, you know, let's face it, everybody wants to feel comfortable, whether they're watching a movie and enjoying, you know, popcorn and the latest sensational movie, or whether it's an amazing concert. Nobody really wants to be sitting down struggling, not sure whether they should clap or not, reading the notes, should they or should they want to feel a connection with the artist, and that has really crossed over into the classical genre of, you know, and that really, actually, I personally think brings that back to the 18th century of, you know, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. They were the pop stars of their day. They were all about the people. They made sure that the people did the operas and the pieces of music that were written for them. Yes, pieces were written especially for the courthouses and the royal households and stuff, and it's no different than today. You know, Paul McCartney gets invited to Buckingham Palace, but he also performs for massive arenas for the local taxi drivers. You know, they're the same guys, just different caps. Yeah.
You know, is that what you are striving to do? You know, to make it accessible to everyone?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I had the the honor to sign a wonderful contract with Sony, and that album was #1 in the States and #2 in the UK, and it's called Summer, and it's on iTunes, and that enabled me to perform in Buckingham Palace. The next week I'm over in China singing for 1.3 billion people with other pop stars like Michael Bolton, hanging out with Nick Cannon, as we know is married to Mariah Carey, and I sort of have to pinch myself in the in the rehearsal and green room and so on. And over here, living in Los Angeles, once you've own your craft, once you and as the wonderful interviewer that you are, once you've really honed in a craft, just like they did back in the day, that really opens doors to all different genres of work. Singing on movie soundtracks, sang on Hans Christian Andersen soundtrack, and worked in P-51, this new movie that's just come out, along with really working with wonderful pop stars. I think we're all just talking the same language.
Right. The universal language of music.
Yes.
You had mentioned when you were in grade school, The King and I.
Yes.
What was that one of your first plays?
Yeah. I think with the three little singers, The King and I, and a few like lighter numbers. I can remember. Yeah, it was just the essence of learning the little roles and working with my singing teacher. And my dream was to come to America. But unlike a lot of the children today, where I think that they understand it, and I stand to be corrected, but with a bit of lip gloss and a good reel that they can make it, and it really isn't the case. Anybody in the industry will tell you, whether it's Adam Levine or Pharrell or, Gwen Stefani, you really have to hone your craft. And they're really good at doing what they do. So I love to mentor singers. I've coached from 6 years old through to, young professionals now, and give them the advice, because there's no book on it really. It really is about being, how technically proficient can you be, which then allows you to break down all the barriers. Because someone like Annie Lennox, she trained at the Guildhall School of Music. So did Sir Elton John. And there they are, pop icons, and yet they had the best of the best classical training. So anyone out there, who's wanting to become a singer or in the arts in general, don't be sidelined by this world of the press and paparazzi and all that good. That's just like the icing on the cake. That's fun to have on the side, but the essence is, what are you trying to communicate with your art? Are you whether you're a hip hop artist or a pure lieder singer, which is German song and French song, what story do you want to tell?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's, I don't know if it's a big debate, but I know there's people, natural talent versus, technical skill. Where do you think that bridge is, where they bridge? At what point? Because, as everyone says, you may have natural talent, but it's the one who practices. But then you have the other side that says, well, they're stiff. They're not fluid. It's the natural talent that brings that out. So you have both those schools. Where do you think they bridge, where that gap meets?
It's very close, very close. I think there's an essence. I know personally. There's a great saying. I'm probably not quite on the mark, but it's 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration, or something like that.
Right.
And I know that, or dedication, or something along those lines. I haven't got it quite right, but I know I worked extremely hard. However, facing a lot of adversity in my life, that only deepens my performance, because once you've gone through those challenges in life, that just, if you can perform with an open heart, that just enables, again, to connect to the audience, rather than just singing about love or pain or whatever it is that we all sing about. I think that just deepens the performance.
Yeah, that's funny when you say whatever we sing about, like silly love songs of some kind.
Yeah, those things. Yeah.
Do you remember your first vocal teacher? How old were you?
I started singing around about 4 years old.
4 years old.
Molly Townsend. She was my singing teacher. And there was about 4 or 5 of us. And we would have little singing lessons, learn little songs. I've probably still got the sheet music in storage somewhere. And years later, to be able to get in touch with her and say, this is what I've done, it's amazing to see the timeline. And when you talk to children, they don't understand that timeline of think of something you want to do, put your heart and soul into it, work really hard at it, and it comes to fruition. And you can go all the way back and go, do you remember when? And I'm still in touch with the girls at school, and bizarrely enough, one of them works as a lawyer at Sony. So it's kind of bizarre how. And Molly Townsend actually also worked with another singer who I didn't know. She was older than me, and she also signed in this genre. I mean, what are the chances of that? So she must have. She was definitely doing something right. Yeah.
You're fairly cognitive of those days. You know, it's being 4. You're small. Do you remember fairly clearly?
When little songs like "Think of Me" or little duet, things like that come on, or "Know Him So Well" from Chess, and it really sparks memories. Yeah,
Really?
for sure. When I was 4, maybe not quite, well, maybe singing "Zippity Doo Dah" or something with my mom, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
At what point was it at that early age, or at what age did you decide this is the career I'm pursuing? This is what I'm going to dedicate my life for the rest of it.
Much later. Yeah, much later. I just enjoyed music, any music I could get my hands on. Didn't really know where it was all going. Just loved to perform. Loved my sport. As I said, that naturally led to training in university. And it really wasn't until I had the opportunity to perform in a competition called the I. Stedford International Singing Competition, which is where Pavarotti's performed and other greats. It's held in Wales. It's recognised in the world of singers, in the classical especially, and I came second. And I think when you start to win competitions and do really well in festivals and things like that, you think, okay, maybe I can give this a go. But it really wasn't until my 20s. You have to have an understanding of the art, but also a business aspect, business know-how, because it's certainly not just given to you. You have to have an understanding. What do you want to do with it?
Right.
Yeah.
So, because you mentioned you were a swimmer.
Yes.
Is that's
swimming and horse riding, and,
okay.
and that's obviously not a career. I did compete in a junior level. I love horses, and to de-stress, there's nothing more that I love to, take an afternoon and ride. Especially we're so blessed here in California, and go out and be with. I love nature. To be able to connect with nature and turn off.
Yes.
All the technical stuff. Turn it off. Get rid of the phone.
and just be one with nature.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and spirit, absolutely. And that also, in this world, is a very fast-paced world. I think, especially if an artist suddenly catches on in the world of the eyes of the public, and we know of many. I think it's super important to just press stop for a second and to turn off and to keep mind, body, and soul healthy and strong. Yeah.
Right. As you were growing, as you got into your pre-teens and teens, what was life like? Because you were singing, you were swimming, and you're doing all these things. Just a normal teenager? No.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, my parents. So my father comes from up north, which to those of you who don't know, that generally means by the time you're 18 or 19, you're out of the house and you should be working in some entity or other. Singing is just a luxury. If you can make it as a career, that's great. And so I always had that in the back of my mind.
So was that the mentality in the home by the time you're 18? Decide.
I think it was that they wanted to give me the encouragement to study. That was a luxury. Nobody in the family had studied at university, so I studied and got my degree and master's. But then there's a tendency to just keep studying, especially in the world of classical music.
Yes.
It's like a glorified student. Well, hang on a minute, you're
At
now
one
in your
point.
50s and you're still studying. What's going on? So I definitely, but I love the business. I love that entity. But yeah, music was very much a weekly, Saturday thing. I'd have my flute lessons and piano lessons and study quite hard. I enjoyed it. I really did. I was never asked to. Apparently, I asked my mum this. "You sure you didn't have to, elbow me to do some practice?" And apparently not. I loved to play. I had some wonderful friends, and had to study really hard for school. I didn't find that easy.
Right.
So really, just put all of my hard and dedication into what I was doing in my early youth, and then made up for it when I moved to London. So I grew up in Oxfordshire and Sussex, and and then when I moved to London, obviously, single young lady in London was a lot of fun.
And this was during university.
Yes.
When you
Yeah.
So when you were when you were growing there, your friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone was out and about dancing and such, and you were inside studying, or would you kind of take your moments to go out?
No, it wasn't. No, they didn't chain me up, lock and key,
Okay.
like sort of some Mozart genius or something. No. It was just a routine. Go to school, study, do. We were all doing it. We were all doing, a lot of extracurricular. That's kind of how it is and how it was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had your swimming, you had your music,
Languages,
and that was all voluntary, right? You chose to do all that.
Yeah, I mean, they really, what the essence was is they would expose me to it, and we'd give it a few weeks, and I remember I wasn't allowed to start something else without finishing something. So, I think a lot of children, they have, it's very tempting to start one thing and give up after a month and want to try something else, whereas my parents tried to encourage me to do a few grades, in there are a few exams, examining boards out there, and I did that, and then would then take on another instrument. But I honestly don't think my parents thought that I would be continuing them all. I think they thought I would choose one or two, but I actually was quite driven to get through all of them, but I just loved it. I really did, and that led to me then in my 20s having the independence to enjoy university, enjoy music college or conservatoire, whatever you want to call it, and when opportunities such as studying in France or working in Italy came up, I was very much a yes girl. I grabbed any opportunity, and I still do. I say yes to pretty much everything. Yeah, I love to, because you never know where it will lead. You never know what contacts you're going to meet, or you really don't know your path in life. So I always say, well, why not? And that's what I love about America. It really has the mentality, or from what I've experienced here in California, is why not? Whereas sometimes other places have shown me to be lending itself more the why question. Why are you doing that? Why? And I think my essence, it really suits me to say, well, why not?
Why not?
Let me try.
Yeah. You were talking about languages. Was that just an offshoot of the music?
Yeah.
So when you decided to study after, well, I'm going to study opera, so I'm going to study languages. First language, what was the first language you...
French.
French,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, you said you traveled. Did you travel there to learn languages? Or?
Yeah, very much so. It was important for me to get away from the books, as I'd mentioned earlier. It's not particularly easy. I really enjoy reading and studying now, but I think certain subjects that you have to do at school, was not easy for me. There's no way going around it. And for anyone who's out there struggling at school, just get through it and find what you enjoy, and really put your heart and soul into that. So French was very much on the school boards. That's kind of what happens in England. And so my parents gave me the opportunity to travel to Martinique. They had never traveled there. And I lived with an amazing family, local family. I was exposed to, plantain and the Creole and the language, and had to make, yogurt, like, you know, there and then, and this amazing family. But they only spoke French. They did not speak one word of English. So I was kind of forced, nudged into it, whatever way you want to think of it, to have to pretty much learn on my feet.
Right.
And I stayed there, I think, for about 3 months or something, by myself, with them. And they were an incredible family. And when I returned back to England, I was stuttering English. I couldn't think clearly in English. And it's the best way to learn a language, is to dive in.
Yes.
Yeah.
You completely submerge yourself in the
Absolutely.
experience. So,
Yeah.
so it wasn't just you learned the language, you learned the lifestyle, or this particular lifestyle,
Yeah.
which really permeated your essence.
I think in another lifetime I would be an anthropologist. I love cultures.
Really?
I really love cultures. You
Yeah.
know, the voice has enabled me to travel the world, from, you know, spending a couple of months in Kenya, Sri Lanka, you know, as I mentioned, China, and in all the European countries, from France to Germany to Italy. And when you get exposed to those cultures on a very, let's say, native level, so it's not watered down by, you know, whether speaking English or Western, you know, with Western way and so on. It's so it's true to the essence of the country.
Yes.
I find it really exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why. So back to your question, when I was studying the music, yes, it's exciting learning, you know, German song, but living in Vienna, going for a run on a snowy morning around the park. Oh, that's where Beethoven lived. That's where Handel had his, you know, debut, and that's where Mozart had his affair with blah blah blah. And you know, it all comes to life because they were just guys of the time.
Right. At
Yeah.
the moment, you know, again, you're allowing the culture, the entirety
Yes,
of this experience to permeate you,
absolutely.
and then it becomes part of you.
Yeah,
And you're able to you know, exhibit that in your performance.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny when you're talking about anthropologists. When I talk with people who are readers, you know, I'm a big reader, and they say, "Oh, someone says something very similar to that." For me, I always say, I would like to have been an archaeologist. But I get a lot of anthropologists,
Yeah.
because you get exposed to the world, and when they travel,
Yeah.
they see the how large the world is,
Yeah.
and how much there is to learn. So that's fascinating. If you could stay somewhere right now as an anthropologist, where would it be?
South America.
South America. Machu Picchu, or
Yes.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I had the pleasure of, you know, I guess you're pointing out a few themes in my life. The challenge to climb Mont Blanc,
Really?
and I mentioned earlier that I love my, you know, athletic side. I love the challenge.
Yes.
I love to put my hip hop on like really loud and train really hard, and the hood up as if I'm like Rocky or something. Yeah, so I climbed Mont Blanc, and I did it twice actually. And one of the dreams out there is to climb Machu Picchu, or to head out to maybe do K2, but I think that would take some serious training.
Okay. And a lot of warmth. I'm not too hip on the warmth. You know, I mean, on the cold.
Yeah, you like it warm.
Yeah, of course.
That's why
I'm
you
from
live
Los
in
Angeles.
California.
Yeah, that's right. I tell everyone, once it dips below 72, I get cold.
Yeah.
So, you know.
No, I'm very proud of myself actually. I'm now wearing pullovers when in England they would consider, you know, the weather here to be, you know, probably their summer or at least their spring, and yet I'm, you know, chattering and yeah.
Oh, so you're adapting rather quickly.
Oh, very,
yeah,
yeah.
very
Yeah,
nice.
I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, it's you know, those experiences. You know, it's wonderful that you know you traveled so much, and your parents afforded you those opportunities. Because tell me, from conversations, they add to your performance. They
Yeah.
come through you. It gives you life. Do you feel that? You know, have you ever had an experience like, you know, you're performing and suddenly a memory comes to you in the middle of a performance, you know, climbing, you know, Mont Blanc, and here you are performing? And have you had moments like that, clear, you know, crystal clear moments?
Yeah, very much so.
Have you?
It's magic, and I think that's what is so exciting for me when I mentor students, to break away from the text, and especially in my genre, the sheet music. That's what California has enabled me to really see that, because I've worked with a lot of pop artists out here and session musicians, and they're so talented, but they've never had a piece of sheet music in front of them in all their lives. They're just it's just in them.
By
Yes,
ear.
they've trained and
Yes.
so on. It is by ear, and they've trained and so on. But they really are living on experiences and feel, and they just let it go. And so, yes, when I've performed, I think, whether it be adversity in love or pain, or I was in a train crash, and having to get through those kind of huge obstacles, it's electric, when you sing high, loud, with notes with the orchestra behind you. A special performance was in London, and it was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and I was singing Ennio Morricone, who we know is a wonderful film score composer. And it's just electric, and the audience are with you on that journey, and it's organic, and something magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I have many friends who are musicians, and both. Some are very schooled, and others who are just free flowing. And I always get conversations between the two, and this is where someone will approach them, or they'll approach somebody where they say, they're a guitarist. They'll do a measure or a chord of some kind, and their teacher or someone else more technical will say, "You can't do that. It can't be done." No, it can't. And they'll have this debate, and the one who's free flowing will show them, "Oh, well, I guess you can do that." And I go, "Yeah, you have to kind of break the confines that you find yourself limited." Do you find that, being schooled, that sometimes you are reserved and not allowing yourself to break free?
I don't think so now, but very much so when I first arrived. It was very intimidating. I had the opportunity to work with some hip-hop artists, and
Very free flowing.
I would ask, for we've now I call it hip opera, because the operatic sensibility, like the film, The Fifth Element, where the creature is pinging. I like to say pinging, pinging all over the place, all
Yes.
high notes.
Yes.
And then this sort of very Justin Timberlake hip hoppy kind of thing is going on. So if you can imagine that fusion. And I'll never forget sort of saying, days before the session, so when do I get my sheet music? And if you would be so kind to sort of fancy, and nothing would come. And is there any sheet music of it? Because I'm so used to, learning and really getting to grips with it from what's in front of me. Then we'll just feel it out. You just come along and you'll have fun. And no, if you could just send me the sheet music, that would be great. Well, actually, there isn't actually any sheet music. You're just going to have to wing it. And then the more experiences I had like that, that was a little extreme, but it's great. It's great to be able to break those barriers. And when you look at the amazing footage of Pavarotti working with Bono, or Bryn Terfel working with any of the greats, Stones or Paul McCartney or any of the above, there they are as purists, essentially. They can do both. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about, really knowing your craft.
Yes. I get that a lot. Do you have questions for us? What kind of questions are you going to be asking? I'll get questions to you. No questions? No, I just kind of make it up as I go along.
Yes. Yeah.
And, because I feel that there's an art to it.
Yeah.
Like rapping, hip-hop. You have to be involved. You have to be immersed in it to be able to perform this. Otherwise, you have difficulty. I don't understand it. How is it just free-flowing? You just have to experience it and
Yes.
go with it, and you end up having fun.
Yeah. It's all about having fun, actually. If you're having
is.
fun, then the audience is having fun. I think, many artists, that I've coached, they have this, they come from a fear base that they're so concerned in their head about how I should be performing, or what it should look like, or what will the audience be thinking, rather than just having a good time.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to America, that really, and performing all over the world, that really, you guys know how to have a good time.
Yes. Yeah, we're known for shooting from the hip. Just go with it.
Just go with
we
it.
don't plan. We just
No.
we'll just go and figure it out later.
Yeah. So much so, I think when I have the opportunity to perform at the White House, I'm going to do it in sandals, flip-flops,
Nice.
t-shirt and jeans, a la Venice style.
Nice. Representing the West Coast.
Representing the West Coast.
some cut-offs
Yeah.
and a little
Cap.
tie-dye shirt.
Maybe not that far.
I would sponsor you to do that with the big in-show, just West Coast, baby. In the middle of winter, though.
Yeah, you can come. You can introduce me to
I can
them.
do. Very nice, very nice. We also want to talk about. You have a CD, Christmas CD, and all that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the essence of being in California, this is the land of where not only the film industry, but a lot of the great songwriters are here. So you literally bump into them. British Academy of Film and Television hosts wonderful events. Had the honor of going to a few of those, and I met Michael J., who is a phenomenal Grammy award-winning songwriter. Works with Andre Lindell, who presently has worked with Maroon 5, and Michael J. has worked with numerous incredible singers. The greats I personally was very much influenced by was Celine Dion and Kylie Minogue and the wonderful Eminem, and Kindred Spirits. He said, let's do a Christmas song. He's a phenomenal songwriter, and it's now released, and I hope everybody buys it and really enjoys it. It's on iTunes and Amazon.
Oh, beautiful. Find it under Summer Watson, right?
It's called If Every Day Was Christmas.
If
Yeah.
every day was Christmas.
Yes,
Wow, that just baits a big question.
Yes.
I don't know. There'd be, I guess, milk, cookies, bad sweaters.
We actually sang about joy and peace, but if you want to go to cookies and milk, we can also do a rewrite.
I can't think of a person who would want to be in a spirit of war who's having milk and cookies. I think it weighs them down and just gives them happiness.
The world really just need, like I was saying earlier, we need a moment. That's what music really gives us, is a moment to tune out.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the world. It's a very fast-paced world, and I love to be able to use my gift to give joy and happiness and a little bit of just some essence of tranquility to people's lives, and if I can give that just to one person, whether it be in a performance or if they just listen to a single, then that gives me a lot of happiness, because it's not easy out there, and I think especially in our day and age, it's very cookie cutter. Everything's perfect, and we all have our own struggles, and I think it's very inspiring. I've been inspired by talking to a lot of the greats, what struggles they've had and how they've overcome, and how this is why I love Cultures, how I can talk to people to navigate my own life, to draw inspiration. Some personal people who I'm very inspired by is the great Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa. I would have loved to have met them and have what we call in England, I guess, a one-on-one and talk to them.
Yes.
But I love reading their, autobiographies, and where can we draw our inspiration from? And I think it's very important in our position when we're talking to the public to be able to say, how can I help? What do you want to achieve in life? What are you trying to overcome? So that we can just have some joy and peace and happiness.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing you were talking about, Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa, being in the entertainment business, and if you're active, the people you meet. And I interviewed a gentleman a few weeks ago, and he was one of the key players that helped Nelson Mandela be freed.
Wow.
And he was promoting it. He had a film out about his entire process, and
Wow.
he had him on the show. And to be that close to history. And another gentleman who's an author, who I think a few days before she passed away, he was traveling, and he went to visit her church, And they ushered him in, and he got to talk with her and meet her, and it was like, I think it was a few days, maybe a week before
Yeah.
she passed. And he said it was just amazing, again, to be that close to history,
Yeah.
and not looking for it, but it's there for you.
Yeah.
How that could influence you. Have you met people like that just maybe not directly, but indirectly have influenced you and have been a large part of history like that?
Hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes me tick every day.
Yeah.
Is I mentioned, where do I pull my inspiration?
Yeah.
I love to learn about people's lives, and last year when I was in New York, Amnesty International invited me to not only sing but to talk for their donors. It was a wonderful gala event, and to hear the stories. This particular subject was on anti-human trafficking, and the lives that these women had gone through, younger than me, and then to meet them afterwards. In particular, it was to do with the Janetta Sagan Awards. Janetta Sagan was, she's passed away now, but she's sort of grandma type age, and I met the granddaughter who was my age, and she was very much all about enabling these women to be self-empowered and to not stand for anything, so to get out of very difficult, human trafficking situations, or here in the States, in the UK, all over the world. We're not talking extreme places, like right under your nose. And from grassroots up, created this incredible entity, and to be a part of that, to see what's being done. And I was just with Stephen Hawkins, who's the director of Amnesty, a couple of months ago. What is being done out there when you're sat around the table really understanding what good work is happening in the world, without it sounding too sunshiny newspaper. There's so much good stuff that people are doing out there, and that's where I pull my inspiration from. Again, singing for many charities, from Save the Children, met the Duchess of York and the CEOs of Save the Children, and the work that they're doing for the children in particular. When you're understanding what they're doing, we're all busy, but what they're doing to try to enable other people to have a better life, a chance, and that's all it's about. That's all what my parents gave me, was just a chance, an opportunity, because we're all born with gifts. It's just about exposure, and it doesn't matter whether your parents can give it to you, whether it's your local community, your little kind of school hall or something like that, very, very local. It doesn't matter where you get that inspiration from, whether it's a school teacher like Molly Townsend for me. You've got to have your eyes open. I think one person in particular, when I watch the occasional show here and there, who really speaks from the heart and is always kind and is really inspiring, is Pharrell. And he always has a way of being strong and empowering and kind and humble. He has this huge essence of gratitude. He's just beaming, aura all the time, and kudos to him for getting his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, if that's okay to say. He's just amazing. And that with others like Oprah, and they're the greats. They're out there. They're talking now. You just have to listen.
They're speaking volumes.
They are. Yeah.
For you, as you were saying, you had someone, your voice teacher, that really inspired you, and Pharrell. Right now, if you could name top 5 of people, not necessarily for you, but you would feel like benefit the world, would Oprah be one?
Oprah, Bono,
nice.
Pharrell, Taylor Swift, Obama. That's 5.
That's right.
And Gus.
And Gus. 6. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's wonderful company.
Yeah.
Fantastic company, as a matter
Gus,
of fact.
because I, really can't wait for us to have a little, holiday celebration. I want to meet those guys you were talking about who've met those like Mother Teresa, and they're like, I mean, you get to meet some amazing people.
You know what? I'm blessed to have that opportunity, and it's wonderful when you're able to sit down and have time with them, because it's once they find out you're a journalist, journalistic mode comes up, but it's like no, just off the record, then just volumes, they just things you learn, and the experiences that they gave you. It's like the gentleman I was talking about. He brokered. He had a broker back in the 70s. This event where 106 British citizens were released, and so he had all this. They met in an African nation, and everyone left, and he had no ride.
Wow.
He said he turned around, everyone was gone. Everyone got on their planes, left, and he said, I'm stranded. I told him, so here you are, you're a billionaire, you flew in, everyone took their planes, and you had to hitch a ride home. He goes, yes. That was
Yeah, I know that feeling. I do these concerts, and everyone's like, oh, great, and you've done the signing, and then, okay, where is everybody? You're just like with the crew, packing up the cables.
Suddenly you're, okay, thank you. You're left there.
Packing up your CDs yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You want a CD?
Yeah. Oh, no, you can't. That one says my mom's name on it.
Is that off? You want a picture?
Yeah.
Have you had moments, like that, where, you're walking down the street, and, you're going to give somebody a CD like that, and I go, oh, that's my mom. Sorry, here, you can have that one. Have you had moments like that?
Yeah, the opposite, actually, where people will ask me, oh, I'd love to have an album. And I said, oh, I don't actually even have my own album. It's awful, and I have to sort of, email Sonia, can I have a few more CDs, please? Or order it myself off of iTunes or Amazon. That's funny, putting in summer and then tapping in address to Summer Watson, blah, 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 blah. It's funny.
P.O. Box.
Yeah.
It's for me. Can I just order it? No, it comes out of your advance. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very much so. I think another person I'm super inspired by is a lady who the American public know extremely well, is Ellen DeGeneres, because she not only has this way of speaking from the heart, but she's really funny, and to have a laugh a day is, the best medicine out there. Yeah. But she's so genuine, and she has a way about nurturing, kids' talent who are literally, let's say, fresh off the boat, to young professionals, and this way about her with these icons. And I would love to meet her. She's amazing. Yes. She really is, and she's as I said, very, very genuine, and seeks out great talent.
Right. Yeah. Are you? Talking about people like that. It seems like you're very global minded. You pick inspiration from everywhere. England, France, Germany, and India, and
I think along the way throughout my life, the travels, as I'd mentioned. When I lived in Kenya for a couple of months, and there was a lovely lady who was extremely simple. We were with a Masai Mara, and a very simple hut. And at the time, I was just with the Masai, and went in, and she was cooking bread, and it was literally a mud hut, and the kids running around, just a t-shirt, just as we imagine it to be, and you just felt grace and the simplicity, and you felt calm, and I think if it's possible to try to open yourselves to, whether it be cultures like that, or whether it be trying new foods or conversations, to just keep the, like horse riding, the blinkers open. Don't close yourself off. Just always try to say yes to, I'll try it. If I don't like it,
very nice.
I don't like it.
Yes. Yes.
I'll get a flight home.
Right. That's because it reminds me. There's a John F. Kennedy. and he had given a speech when he was talking about going to the moon, and he was talking about, future generations, and he was talking about, how they're going to see us, and they're going to ask, why did you? And he goes, not why did we, but why not? And it's like these wonderful inspirations, and here you are, you think about the vision he had,
Yeah.
and where we ended up at, the end of the decade, exactly what he had hoped. And now it's like old hat, we can fly there anytime. That's
I think
fantastic.
it's so wonderful when, with today's technology, to so quickly learn about someone who's doing amazing things, whether it's, something in the field of metaphysics, quantum physics, someone like Eckhart Tolle, who's very much of the essence of the now. At the click of a button, you literally can download his entire collection and immerse yourself for a weekend and change your perception overnight. You
Yes.
couldn't do that back in the dark ages.
1984.
Right, I don't remember those years. So, yeah, I think if we can draw on where technology can really help us
Yes.
To benefit our lives, I think that for me has also helped, because sometimes really difficult things happen in our lives.
Yes.
You just think, how on earth am I going to get through it? How do I get over? What can I do to keep my core, my tree strong and rooted and grounded?
Right.
And to be able to learn about,
Yes.
law of attraction, thinking about things, seeing it, dreaming it, using the visionary process and
Right.
feeling it.
Yes.
Like the great athletes, sometimes before I perform, I will use the same technique as the great basketball players. They're there envisioning the ball going in, and I'm doing
Yes.
exactly the same.
Yeah, great performance.
Yeah, great performance,
yeah.
poise and enjoyment, and yeah.
It's fantastic. Summer, it was wonderful. What great sentiment. But as you were talking, thinking about all these great things, and I said, well, if greatness, isn't there for everyone, they can always just do a silly dog trick, put it on YouTube, and get 10 million hits, and there's their greatness.
Right. I think it's important there are those comedic entities out there, and it's really you can laugh very naturally. A lot of people don't laugh enough, right? And laughter is the best medicine out there. It changes the cell makeup. It makes us strong. It's not just about what you eat. It really that you feel better. It's like going for a run.
Yes.
And you can be any age or in any condition to have a good old laugh.
Yes.
And when we have these things that are out there that are challenging, it's important to seek out what works for you.
Absolutely.
Is it,
Yes.
having a laugh with a friend, going for a walk, and yeah, if there's anyone out there who wants to, talk with me and get in touch with me, or talk about singing, or any advice I can help them with, get in touch with me at summerwatson.org, and Twitter at Summer Music, and I personally write back, and I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Fantastic. And what a perfect segue, because we're at the end of the show. That was wonderful. I was going to ask you that very question. You beat me right to it. And I love what you were saying about laughter, because if anyone doubts, all they have to do is Google Dr. Norman Cousins.
Yes.
And they can find out what some laughter and the Marx Brothers can do for anybody. Summer, again, thank you for taking the time. And, of course, want to give a great shout-out to our wonderful friend, Sandro, who helped us put all this together. Thank you, Sandro, of course. As always, my good friend. And to you, Summer, of course, all the best. And look forward to your next CD and everything else.
Wonderful, Gus. Thank you so much for having me, and please enjoy my music at summerwatson.org.
Perfect. Thanks, Summer. Hey, well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show. We had in-studio guest Miss Summer Watson. Of course, she's just been talking about her wonderful music and her worldview, which is wonderful. And just to paraphrase, smile and enjoy some great music out there. And of course, you can look for us at theinshow.com, where you'll be able to hear this interview and catch up on everything else that we have been doing and will do. Of course, look for us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all those great social media sites. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, Gus has left the building.